Hi, I'm Paul, the running shoe guru. This is Marathon Handbook, and this is the new Nike Ultrafly Trail. So the Ultrafly Trail is a very eagerly awaited shoe. Nike have been teasing us with this one for quite a while, and it's finally here. The Ultrafly Trail is, of course, Nike's new range-topping racing shoe for the trails, and it features, of course, ZoomX cushioning and a carbon plate, but also a trail-specific outsole from Vibram. First of all, the weight. In the men's US size 10, which would be a UK 9, the shoe weighs in at 300 grams, which is 10.5 ounces approximately. Price is £230 in the UK, $250 in the US. Stack height is 38.5 millimeters in the heel, dropping to 30 millimeters under the forefoot, so approximately 8.5 millimeters drop. With stack heights, I always think the stats are there, it's measured, but because of the variances in the manufacturing processes and the softness, the rate of compression of these midsole materials, particularly the modern materials, which are very soft and responsive, the stack height is less important. So when you have a very soft shoe with a high stack in the heel, I think sometimes when you stand in that shoe, or if you're a heel striker, you'll compress it more, and that kind of will change the relationship between the overall stack in the heel to the forefoot. I hope that kind of makes sense. But your foot can sink at a different rate into softer shoes, and so the stack height isn't the be-all and end-all. We've also got a carbon fly plate in here, Nike's term for their full-length carbon fiber plate, and we have the Vibram Meta Grip light base. So Meta Grip, really grippy, and the light base is Vibram's kind of slightly lighter rubber, slightly thinner, but just as grippy. Now the lugs on here are 3.5 millimeters deep. I think it's kind of good to point out that this is a trail shoe, I think, particularly in the UK here, where we have fell running and very muddy cross-country courses. People confuse the two. Wherever you run on the trails near to your house will be very personal to you, and they may be very muddy, they may be very dry. But for me, a trail shoe, and I think for brands themselves, when we're talking about trail shoes, we're talking about shoes that are good on a variety of surfaces, trail being firm off-road, shall we say, so gravel paths, footpaths, fire roads, that kind of thing. I think once it becomes more grass and potentially muddy, then here, particularly in the UK, we're talking about fell shoes where you need much more grip. There's no doubt that this kind of outsole that's seen on a lot of trail shoes would not be sufficient for very muddy courses, but it is a trail shoe. It's for a variety of surfaces, a little bit of mud perhaps. Granted, it's not going to be the grippiest shoe in the world, but it's not meant for that. And this one, because of that ZoomX, because of that carbon plate, it's meant for going fast on firmer trails, in my opinion. A very interesting feature we've got with the Ultrafly Trail is the wrap that is around the ZoomX midsole. Now, as you know, if you've had a pair of Vaporflies or even Alphaflies, if you take them in on anything remotely resembling trail, any bits of gravel or rocky paths, it will start to chew up the outsole, and you can get some wear to the exterior medial and lateral sides of the stack of the foam. So because it's a trail shoe, because ZoomX is a very soft and quite open to abrasion kind of material, shall we say, they've shrouded it in this fabric. So it's a woven fabric. It's quite tricky. You can kind of feel that it's different to ZoomX, so you know it's wrapped. By the touch of it, I don't know if you can see really, I don't think it's glued entirely to the ZoomX, but kind of wrapped around it to provide exterior protection, shall we say. The upper is Nike's Vapor Weave. It's not a waterproof shoe, it's breathable, it's kind of got a ripstop construction. Other than that, the tongue, lightly padded, you can see it's padded all the way across and all the way down. I think that's important when you're wearing a shoe like this. It's called the Ultrafly trail, so that to me suggests longer, ultra distance kind of races perhaps. So we want a bit of cushioning and plushness in the upper, padded around the heel collar and heel tab, not overly so, and the upper, again, not overly padded throughout the main body of the upper, but light and breathable. You can see the internal kind of bonding, if you like, this orange section that incorporates up into the laces, and it's on the medial and lateral side as well. The tongue is gusseted in so it stays in place. We don't have any loopholes in the tongue for the laces, but it should stay in place nicely enough because of the gusseted on both sides of the midfoot. Trail pattern, if you ever wondered what the various kind of patterns on the outsole mean, well, we've got this kind of chevron pattern here from the Vibram rubber, 3.5mm lugs, as I said. In the rear of the foot, we've kind of got a reverse chevron. The idea with that is as you go downhill, it kind of grips, bites into the ground, and the same on the forward facing chevron in the forefoot. As you're going uphill, it provides traction as you push off. So that's it. That's all the kind of the tech spec and the details of the shoe. So now it's time to take it out for a little test run. We're going to give them a little bit of a trail test. First thing that strikes you about the shoe is the ZoomX foam. It feels very soft both in the heel and in the forefoot. It's got that familiar, soft, responsive, almost bouncy feel about it. The forefoot is a little bit broader fit. It's wider across the toes, and I guess that's so to allow the feet to spread, particularly on the trails, create some balance, and the wider footprint of the shoe, again, gives some stability. Grip, as expected, great on the gravel, footpaths and the track. I'm on grass just now. The grip is absolutely fine where I've taken it. It's not gonna be great in the mud, but it's a trail shoe, and I don't think you're going to be encountering very muddy sections, particularly on the courses where this shoe is intended. It is a trail racer, and it's for longer trails, you know, the Ultrafly. On this type of trail race, usually they do stick to paths. You're not going off piste, as it were, so you're following known tracks and trails. So grip, I think, is going to be sufficient. It's certainly sufficient for anywhere where I'm going to take this shoe. But generally speaking, yeah, cushioning's great. Don't really notice the carbon plate too much, to be perfectly honest. I think because you've got the rubber that spreads across the whole width of the shoe, you've not got the same flexibility, perhaps, as you do in a Vaporfly. That said, the shoe doesn't feel stiff, but I think the whole combination, the makeup of the shoe, it just detracts from the effect of the carbon plate. I've not really ran fast enough to notice, like you notice it much quicker in the Vaporfly, but then again it's easier to run quicker on the roads. So I'm sure as I get a few more miles into the shoe that the carbon plate will be welcome addition, and we'll notice that. Upper fits well. That lacing, it doesn't strike me as being the best lacing at first around the midfoot, but I must say it's incredibly comfortable. As usual, Nike know what they're doing when they're making shoes, and they're making fast competition type shoes, and that's no different with this model.